Hello. Hi, hello. Can anyone hear me? I have no idea if you can hear me. If you can hear me, let me know somehow. So sorry for the delay tonight. I need you to somehow let me know if you can hear me. Okay, hang on. I'm going to see. Whoa, whoops. Okay, you can hear me. Thank you, Rebecca. Fabulous. Sorry. The technical gods have not been my friend tonight, and it would not have surprised me if you also could not hear me. So, welcome to the green room this evening. We're very green in here. Has anybody else got a glass of wine? Does anybody else need a glass of wine quite as much as I do right now? Okay, hello to those of you. I can see you popping up, and I'm so excited that you're there. Let's dive in. I'm sorry we're late, but it seems like it hasn't completely destroyed your night, so I'm thrilled. Okay, I'm just pulling up my presentation so I can both see what you guys are saying and I can talk to you. Okay, so unfortunately the Q&A section doesn't seem to be working, so at the moment, like you guys are currently doing, please just feel free to throw your questions out onto the Google Plus page, and I'm going to get to them tonight. Tonight we're going to talk about the 5 main questions that every blogger really should be asking in order to have great experiences working with brands. My name is Louisa Clare. I'm just getting my desk sorted out here, and I'm really glad that you're here, and I'm just really excited about what we're going to be talking about. So let's get ourselves started. Okay, so you guys are in the right place tonight if you've been blogging for a while, but the working with brand side of things is just maybe not happening the way that you want it to be happening. Or maybe you're just sick of getting crappy pictures in your inbox all the time. Maybe you're wanting to have a few more emails in your inbox. Maybe you're having really great experiences working with brands and you just want to get some more tips and info. I think that's really cool. But you might also be brand new to blogging and trying to figure out this whole industry and work out how it's going to work well for you. So it doesn't really matter whether you've been working with brands for ages or whether you're totally new to it or whether you're somewhere in between, because tonight we're really talking not so much about like the practical things that you're going to do, but more about the principles that will override the whole way you approach working with brands so that you have really great experiences that work really well for you, but also work well for your blog and work well for your the brands that you work with, because that's really important. So I guess the one thing I'm not going to talk so much tonight is about just having a PR-friendly blog. I've got a whole free e-course on that, so you can just check that out in your own time if you want information about that. But tonight I want us just to go deeper to a more kind of, I guess, sophisticated place in how we talk about this industry and some of the questions that might help influence the way that you approach this whole activity on your own blog. I get really excited about this topic, so there's a good chance I'll talk fast. If I'm talking too fast, just let me know on Google and I'll try to slow down. If I look up, it's because I want to really stay focused tonight. I can get really passionate and tangential, and so I'm trying to make sure that we stay on track and make sure that we get through all of these 5 questions that I've promised you that we'll talk about tonight. So some of you might be familiar with me already, but for those of you who aren't, my name is Louisa Clare. I had a personal blog for over 7 years, and through that time I was a KidSpot VIP blogger. I was in Mamamia's 50 Most Clickable Women list last year. This year I'm a judge for the KidSpot Voices of 2014 awards. And through my personal blog, which was louisaclaire.com, I had some really great experiences with brands. I was sponsored to attend Blog World in New York in 2012 and turned that into a 3-week holiday for my family and I. I've done lots of really great things with brands. I've been sat on great overnight date nights. I've been sent great product. I've been paid to judge awards. I've done a lot of things that I guess go beyond the normal idea of a sponsored post, and so as part of that, I guess what I want to convey to you is that I've never done a campaign that I wasn't really happy to do and that I didn't feel was going to add some value to me or to my readers and also to the brand. And I think there's just a huge amount of freedom in being able to do that. And so that's really what I want us to, one of the things I want to share with you tonight is just to think about what kind of freedom might come from being able to work with brands a bit differently to the way that we often talk about it. I also run a blog outreach agency called Brand Meets Blog, and we've worked with massive companies like Garnier, Kellogg's, L'Oreal, Colgate, Howard Storage World, so-and-so. So I sit, I guess, in a somewhat unique position in that I can talk from the blogger side, I understand what it's like to be a blogger, but I can also talk from the agency side, thinking about the sorts of questions that brands and brand managers have, but also that PR and agencies have when they're trying to represent those brands. And so it's given me some really unique insights, and that's what I'm passionate about sharing with bloggers through our Brand Meets Blog community, and why I'm posting this tonight. So all of that stuff possibly sounds cool. It certainly has been a really, really exciting journey for me, but it definitely didn't start out that way. I started blogging. I'd moved to Melbourne. I was away from my family, and a friend said to me, "Hey, you should start a blog so we can all keep in touch with what you're doing." It was 2006. Cool, I'll start a blog. Yeah, nobody read it. Nobody read it. So that was fun. And what that meant, though, was apart from blogging about kind of really average stuff, I found this whole blogging community. So I connected with some beautiful American women, and there was not a really big blogging scene in Australia, though I started a little community called Where the Blog Are You? And that was really cool and special at the time, and it really took me on this massive journey. So I went from having no one reading my blog, and then of course by the time people were reading my blog, or my family and friends wanted to read my blog, and I was maybe thinking I was kind of happy with not reading my blog. So I know some other bloggers relate to that idea. So I've really gone on this very interesting journey from no one to having these really amazing experiences with brands, and being fortunate enough to be able to share some of those with you tonight. So here's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about the big questions I think every blogger should ask, and why it's important to do that. I'm going to share with you some of the biggest insights I've got on working with brands, and just try to create a bit of a new way to think about those really crappy pitches. I mentioned earlier that I went to Blog World in 2012, and that actually started out with a pretty average pitch. It wasn't like, "Dear Louisa, we would like to send you to Blog World and pay you to go." How does that sound? It started with something really, really average that I was able to then work towards something that I thought was a win for everybody involved. We're going to talk about some of the answers to the most common questions we get asked. How to avoid inbox fatigue, and to do that thing where we can turn something dull into something with really amazing potential. So I hope you're ready, and I hope you're excited, and do feel free to use the Google box, wherever it is on your screen, to ask questions. Let's keep going. But I use the right keyboard to skip through my slides. Look, and I just want to say, I know that we're running late. It's already 8:30. You're tired. There's stuff on TV. But I just want to encourage you that it's going to be worth you sticking around tonight, really talking about practical information. And for those who do stick around, I might have something special for you at the end. So you'll never know if you don't stay around, hey? Let's dive into question one, which I think is, why are you working with brands? That's the question to ask. Why am I working with brands? And people go into working with brands for a lot of reasons I've discovered over the years. You might want to make money. You might want to raise your profile. You might just think everybody else is doing it, and so why not? You might want to get some free stuff or have some great experiences. There are heaps of reasons that you might want to work with brands, and all of them are really valid reasons. But I think it's key there to understand what your motivation is, because it really will impact the way that you choose to approach the whole activity. my experience was, you know, I think it was probably about 4 years ago, sitting having dinner with my husband, and I went out to dinner, and I was talking to him about my blog and what I wanted to do and what I saw as the opportunities at the time. And he was quite keen. He was like, that sponsored post thing sounds pretty good. But what was really helpful for me was to work out what was actually going to guide me in making these decisions. So some of that was to sit and go, okay, well, how much money do I actually want to make per year as a blogger? What are the things I want to do? And when I actually looked at it and worked out how much I wanted to make, and it wasn't heaps, it was a few $1,000s in a year, I thought, well, do I really want to be doing lots of sponsored posts, or do I really want to be selling, you know, $50 ads on my site? What is actually the most efficient way to earn the sort of money that I want to make? And what is the way that's going to be the most value added for my audience? Because at that time I'd been blogging for, I don't know, 3 years or more. I didn't want to just jump suddenly into going, I'll take every sponsored post or I'll chase every sponsored post that comes my way, because that wasn't what my blog had been up until that point. And so it was really important to me that the way that I approached working with brands really fitted well. In fact, here's a great story for you. Even though I knew all about how brands work with bloggers, and I was really across this all happening in America, when it first took off in Australia, I got this email asking me if I wanted this kitchen appliance. Honestly, I thought it was a scam. I rang the PR agency, and I rang the head office, and I was checking out whether they were a legit company and whether legit, like, it was just, you know, like, it was such a strange thing to suddenly have been blogging for so long and then for this world to open up. And I really wanted to take that step carefully. And I know that many bloggers now are just starting out or are new and have a whole bunch of reasons for it. So it's different if you're just starting out and you're wanting to work with brands. But I still think this question of what motivates you will really help you determine what choices you make. So because I'd chosen that I was going to monetize in different ways, I wasn't going to focus on just a sponsored post approach. It meant that I could take campaigns that really offered value to my readers. So there were times when I said yes to brands who didn't actually really offer me anything, but what they offered my readers was something really great. And I thought, yeah, I'll do that because that helps me achieve my other goals. So I could work with brands to do things like build my audience, build a community, give things back to them, raise my profile, a whole bunch of other things that then made me and my blog of more value to some brands, even though it was a kind of indirect way of doing that. So I think that, though, yeah, as I said, there are just lots of really legitimate ways to work with brands, and how you approach it will tie back into why you're trying to do it. You see, working with brands, if they're not paying you, can still be a great profile raiser. It can be great community building raiser. It can be a great way to grow your email subscriber list. There are lots of ways you can work with brands strategically that add a lot of value to you in monetizing your whole site, even if it's like the long game, even if directly they're not going to add value to your hip pocket. Now, at the same time, you can do all those things and it adds no value. So it's about having that strategy and some thought around what's motivating you. So that, I think, is like the first question you should ask yourself. Why am I actually doing this? Once you've done that and you've worked out why you're doing it, I'd say you need to ask, what is my brand? So what are you actually building? What's your community? You know, it's even if you've got a kind of blog that would seem obvious, so you say you've got a beauty blog or you've got a health and wellness blog, there are still things that will make your blog quite distinct. And it's something that's been really interesting for me as a judge of the Kidspot Awards this year, and I've just looked at so many blogs, and even more than usual, but I guess I've looked at them in a new way, and just seeing the thing, there are so many amazing blogs out there. So it's really working out how to have that unique angle that other people don't have. So you don't just want to start a beauty blog. You want to start a beauty blog that does something. I have something on Brandmeet's blog called an influence hack. And if you haven't checked that out yet, then I would just encourage you to do that, because this will help you unpack what I'm saying here. And I'm just going to bring it up so I can tell you what the actual sort of statement is, but it's something that I came up with because I thought it would help you. It helps bloggers really crystallize this key. Of course, I can't find it because that would be too easy tonight. But it helps you really crystallize this issue of what your brand is about and working with brands on your blog. So the sweet spot, I think, is when you work out the content that really works well for you and the stuff that your readers are really interested in, and connect that in with the brands that you work with. So again, I'm drawing a lot on my story tonight because it's my story, and so it's what I know. But also because I think it can provide some examples of what I mean. So my blog ended up, when I had my daughter, I really was like, this is what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about helping new mums navigate the transition into new motherhood and sort of honest stories about motherhood. This was like before mummy blogging in Australia was big, so don't think it's so twee, because that was, there weren't many of us doing that at the time. And so that was great because that was my passion, and so I talked a lot about mother guilt and what friendship looks like when you start to become a mum and those sorts of things. But what my readers were really resonated with were the things that I got lots of comments and lots of shares were more when I talked and I guess had a more opinion about something. So I guess the issue of friendship, something like that was good. Or when I talked about, maintaining a relationship when you're married, or I wrote a blog post once about when kids should get their ears pierced, went off. So what people were looking for on my blog was more that opinion, those opinion posts, but the stuff that I was really passionate about, I guess, was connecting that back to new motherhood. So what I ended up doing was working with, last year I did a series with Heinz, but I did it on their blog. So I talked about the transition to motherhood and some of my story there, and I did it for them. And I've done things for Huggies where I've judged competitions. So I've worked in that kind of new mum space. But what I've done is I've done it in places that make sense to do it. It didn't make as much sense to bring those products directly onto my blog because it wasn't going to resonate as strongly for my readers. But it made a lot of sense for me to take my readers to those spaces where that content made sense for them. So it wasn't that my readers weren't interested in those topics. They were interested in those topics, but they weren't coming to my blog for those topics. So it was fine for me to take those readers to another blog for those topics because that made more sense. Does that make sense? Like, it's just about knowing your audience, knowing who they are, what they're interested in, but then working out like where it makes sense to do that. And I guess for lots of bloggers that might translate to, does it make sense for you to be talking about specific things maybe on your Facebook page rather than on your blog? And is that something that might look different when brands are approaching you, that it doesn't always have to be a sponsored post on your blog? It's about what makes sense for your readers and your community. Now, I've got this Blogfluence hack that I came up with, and I just want to share that with you because if you haven't done this yet, I think it's a really helpful process. If you go to brandmeetsblog.com/blog and then just put in the search box Blogfluence or influence, it'll come up. And so that is the heartbeat of my blog is this. I want my readers to feel this and do this when they read my blog. So this is what I'm passionate about, and this is what I want my readers to feel and do when they come to my site. If you can encapsulate that, it's going to help you really work out what brands make sense for you to work with. Because if what you want your readers, if the heartbeat of your blog is motherhood in all its wonderful and mostly equal motherhood. So here's an example. The heartbeat of my blog is that motherhood is hard and wonderful in mostly equal measure. I want mums to feel understood and to go away encouraged in their motherhood journey. Okay, so in that case, it's going to make sense for me to work with brands that will help mothers feel good, encouraged, and understood. Okay, so it's not going to make sense for me to talk about brands that have nothing to do with those things, because that's not what I'm on about as a whole blog. And the more that I can connect the brands that make sense to my readers in the better it's going to fit for everybody, and the better outcomes I'm going to deliver for everybody. And I want you to start thinking, when it comes to working with brands, about that question of outcomes. It's not just about you getting the gig, it's about the outcomes that you're delivering. And we're going to talk more about why that's important as we go on. Okay. Great, I'm so glad this is making sense to you. Thank you for sharing that. If you've got other feedback, please feel free to pop it up into the box. And if you've got questions as well, just please feel free to pop them up there. If they're relevant to what I'm talking about right now, then I'll address them. If they're not relevant, put them there, and we'll just pin that, as people like to say, till the end, and we'll talk about it then. Okay, so once you've worked out this issue of why you're working with brands and what your brand is, you need to make sure that you're communicating that clearly on your blog. And yes, that includes some of those general nuts and bolts about being PR friendly, having your name somewhere on your blog, having your email address somewhere on your blog, and having your geographic location somewhere on your blog. But you also want to tell your story and show your value. So I guess you're wanting to communicate to PR and brand managers that you understand this idea of making sure that the connection between you, your readers, and your brand is working appropriately. And you might like to create some case studies of how that's worked for you and for brands in the past. Now, if you've done a lot of work and you feel like you're already nailing this, then you can just draw on that history to create these case studies. If you haven't done that in the past, then you can come up with some yourself. So you might have some products around that you use all the time, and you could use them as the basis for a post to start showing both how you approach it, but also the way your readers respond to you doing that. Case studies are really helpful, and social proof is really helpful. So being able to share which brands you've worked with in the past, or what blog posts you've written about brands is really, really helpful, and will just help a PR, because I think the thing that gets missed in this conversation is when you work with a PR agent or a brand manager, they have a whole reporting structure internally that they have to be accountable to. And so it's not just about them getting the post up on your site. It's about them being able to go back and justify the kind of the ROI, the return on investment of that post. So that's why things like case studies or other ways that you can demonstrate that value will make you really stand out, because you're going to make your contact look good internally. Everyone wants to look good, and people like being around people who make them look good. So if you can kind of keep that mindset a little bit in mind, like how can I make these people look good, they're going to love you, and that's going to be really beneficial for you on a professional level, and as well as meaning that you're delivering great content for your readers. So one of the questions that you see going around sometimes is, do you act like a big blog? You know, do you act like a top blogger? But I think a better question is, do you act like a pro? Do you act in a way that makes you stand out as being really super switched on and really super professional? Because those are the qualities that are going to really be powerful for you. So what do pros do? Well, they're polite, they're punctual, and they present professionally. Lots of P's. I think that we as bloggers ask a lot of brands and PRs. We want to be treated with respect, and I think that part of acting like a pro is just extending that respect back to the people who contact us and seeing every interaction with a person as an opportunity, because these emails that we get sent all come from people, not robots, even though they might feel robotic sometimes. There's a person behind them who's just trying to do their job, and you never know, I guess, what opportunity would lie there. I could have dismissed the sponsorship pitch. I could have dismissed that first pitch I got to be sponsored to go to Blog World, which had nothing to do with being sponsored to go to Blog World at all. But instead I went back to them with a whole proposal about how it actually worked for everybody. So it's really that's a good question for you to be keeping in mind. Like, how can I be professional, especially if you're wanting to monetize with bloggers, with brands? Is just having a really professional mindset to the approach. Okay. So yeah, that was within the question of, am I sending out the right message? So these are all things you can communicate in really subtle ways on your website, but also in the way that you interact with brands when they come to you or when you're approaching them. What's my price? Question number 4. I get this question a lot, and so I felt it was important that I address it tonight, the question of what you charge. And look, I'm really happy to talk about this. I guess I'm umming and ahhing because I don't think there's a formula for setting your price. And I know there are a lot of formulas out there, and look, they can be useful, read them, see what you think. But I think what is lacking in all of the formulas I've seen is that most of them are based on the blogger's time and the blogger's reach. And I think the thing about reach is that's how traditional media set their prices, based on eyeballs, monthly circulation figures and the like. And bloggers have so much more data at their fingertips that there's a much, but I can't give you a formula to factor in the kind of intuitive elements of working with a blog and working with a brand. And it will come back to, you could be a beauty blogger, and so you do a post with L'Oreal and it delivers really brilliantly with them, but you do a post for Bunnings and it doesn't, because your readers, look, just random examples. I'm sure really clever bloggers could do a great post on Bunnings and something about beauty. That's fine. I'm just, as a general rule, even if you do an amazing post from Bunnings about how you can create your own beauty showcase wall or cabinet or whatever, like, that's not what people are coming to your blog for. They're coming for makeup tutorials or for tips or for the latest information. They're not coming for an issue on storage, no matter how clever a blogger you are. And I'm sure there are people who could do that really well. My point is, your influence is based on the relevance of the brand to your blog. So if you were to go to Bunnings and charge based on having a massive reach, even though you didn't have a massively relevant audience to that brand, you're not going to deliver as strongly as if you can go to a brand where the match is really, really great. And so I think just setting it based on stats is problematic. And I think the other thing is, you might know this with your own blog. I certainly know that on my now defunct blog, I still get 3,000 to 4,000 views a month because I have blogged for so long. I have so much SEO in my site. I have so much, so posts coming up in search, and I've blogged on stuff that's timeless, and so I still get traffic. Well, if I were to turn around and charge a brand, if I were to say, well, I haven't blogged in 6 months, actually I'll put a post up saying I don't blog anymore, but yes, I'll take your money and I'll do the sponsored post. What am I going to deliver for that person? Now, obviously, it's a pretty extreme example, but I do talk to bloggers all the time who say that 30% of their monthly traffic goes to one post on their site because that gets so much traffic through Google search. Well, then I have to ask the question, what stats are you giving to the brands? Because if you're giving them the stats with your 30% traffic that you know will never really touch this post, are you going to disappoint them? It's not that I really care about what you charge, what you're based on. It's about saying, if you tell a brand one thing but actually you know it's another, then they're going to likely be disappointed. And you've got the one gig, you want to get them coming back for the second gig. You want, there's stuff in business, they say, it's easier to keep a customer than make a new one. You want to be keeping your customers. You want to be keeping your contacts really happy. So tell them stuff that they can actually use. So tell them, my stats are 10,000 a month, but actually 6,000 of them are kind of new traffic, and my average post gets this number of hits, and my average sponsored or branded post gets this number of hits. They're not going to be upset by small numbers. All they're going to be upset by is if you tell them a really large number and you say, oh my gosh, my blog gets like 10,000 hits a month, and then they ask you to tell them how many people looked at the blog post you wrote, and you say 50. You're going to go, that's kind of quite a big difference. But if you tell them from the beginning that you normally get 50, then that's something they can work with and that you can base it around. So I think just don't be afraid of your stats. Don't be afraid of what your blog is doing. and just be upfront with the brands and talk to them about it, because it's all about managing expectations and delivering on what you tell them. So yeah, I hope that's making sense. And I guess when it comes to setting those prices, you know, ask around, talk to other bloggers who are similar to you in a similar vein. You know, most bloggers I've found are happy to talk money with you, are happy to tell you what they charge, are happy to have that conversation. Everyone's often feeling the same kind of hesitations about it. It's, you know, like you can look at some basic prices like you know, we don't really do sponsored posts or anything like that for less than $200, regardless of the size of your blog. I haven't done anything with Nothing Angle Heard for years, but I know that they used to have their base rate for bloggers was $110. You know, there's some starting points, and you go up from there. You know, here's another interesting case study. So we did something with 2 bloggers recently, and 3 bloggers recently, and we had 2 bloggers had pretty, you know, like they're in that mid-range, like nice number of stats, sort of 15 to 30,000 or something a month. One blogger had like quite a bit smaller stats, but they had really great engagement on their site. So I talked to the brand. I said, look, I really think you should go with this person, and this is why, blah, 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 blah. And the person with the smaller blog like killed it in terms of engagement on her post, engagement with the readers, engagement with the traffic and everything. And those are the doesn't matter. I mean, like the other bloggers were great too. The whole thing worked well, but I'm just saying, it's, you know, when you've got a bigger blog, you can have those things where you've got traffic coming for SEO, you've got traffic coming for those other purposes. But if you're a newer blogger and your traffic's smaller, actually you might find that your relevant traffic is similar to the bigger bloggers. So don't get put off, and don't worry about what other people are doing. Play your own game, and build something that just adds value to everybody who you work with and everybody who encounters you, and you'll be on a really good path to being able to charge and monetize and kind of have that freedom, I guess, that I felt with my own blog I had, which was just not to worry about what other people were doing, and to set my own goals and my own objectives, and then just to have an amazing time blogging and an amazing time working with these great brands and having these great experiences. Last question. Are you prepared? Am I prepared to say no? And look, I'll be honest and say sometimes I go onto some blogs and I just feel sad about the things they've said yes to, because I know that it's an SEO pitch, or I know that it's a link, you know, it's link based or something, and it just has no relevance at all. And, you know, they've posted it on the weekend, or they've done something to try to mitigate the impact on their readers. And, you know, like, I get it. I get that people want to make money and that they spend a lot of time blogging. But no is just a really powerful word, because it just helps, you know, your yeses be more meaningful, and ultimately helps your brand, and it helps your traffic, and it helps your community, and it helps your readers. And the more that you invest in those things, then the more you have to deliver to a brand and deliver to your audience. So I think that no is a really powerful word, and I encourage you to use it. So at this point, I just want to do a quick recap of what we've talked about and just see if anybody has any questions. We've talked about the main questions to ask. Why do I want to work with brands? What's my brand? Am I sending out the right message? Setting a price? And being prepared to say no. So does anybody want to throw any questions up about any of that while I take a sip of my wine? No pressure. Okay, well, look, I'm going to keep my eye on that. I'm glad that I'm being so comprehensive tonight. You don't even need to ask any questions. It's all really great in theory to talk about how we do this and to ask a whole bunch of questions, but it's much harder in the process of life and busyness to actually do it. And so I guess the other thing that I wanted to share with you tonight was that I, you know, last month I launched a free e-course for bloggers, and it's been, we've had hundreds of bloggers go through the course so far, which has been amazing. And the feedback we've been getting is that it's really just making a difference to the way that brands respond, that people are noticing a change in the way that, in the responses they're getting, and that we've had bloggers starting to say, look, they're getting sponsored posts and they're getting paid by brands as a result of implementing the stuff from that course, which has been really, really fantastic. But to build on that, I have launched Brandlicious, your step-by-step guide to making brands fall in love with your blog. And I think that's because I think there's lots of advice about being PR friendly, but the thing that's not talked about so much is making sure those brands come back to you, like I alluded to earlier. I want to give you the tools to impress them in the first instance and to get those opportunities to work with them. But the key is then to really wow them once you've got them. The thing that I've really learnt this year through the stuff I've done with KidSpot and through the stuff I do with Brandmates blog is that there are some amazing blogs out there, and there are a lot of really good blogs who are competing for the same market and competing for the same brands. And the thing that I found in my own experience as a blogger and through Brandmates blog is that it's the way that you deliver those campaigns that makes such a big difference to whether you get more work with them. And so I want to encourage you that whatever you're doing is to really think that the end game is not getting your pitch across the line. The end game is delivering something really amazing for the brands that you're working with. And so Brandlicious is, I guess, a one-in-a-kind program because it teaches you both of those things. And it's not theory, it's the steps and the tools that I used on my personal blog, and it's the ones that I use in my clients every day. It's templates for pitching, it's templates for reporting, it's taking you through in much more detail a lot of this mindset stuff to make sure that you're approaching the brands that are going to fit really well for you, that have got a really sharp and clear idea about how to monetize by working with brands in a way that just is authentic and feels really good for you. And I guess the program just takes you through a detailed process and a proven process, because I've used it on my personal blog and I use it every day in my business. And yeah, it's all just totally practical. So I guess the other thing about Brandlicious is that there are a lot of great blog courses out there at the moment, and this isn't one of those. It's not a general course about blogging. It's not going to teach you all the general blogging tips. It's going to talk in a dedicated way about monetization. It's an entire course that's dedicated to showing you how to work with brands and to monetize by working with brands in a way that really feels good for you. So it's something I'm really excited about, because I just think more bloggers could be doing it, but they just don't. It's so hard to figure out how. So you absolutely don't need to do a course like this to learn how to work with brands, but I guess it's just the shortcut, because it'll take you through the process without having to figure out your way. So I don't know what it was that you were thinking when you came to this webinar, or why you want to work with brands. And I hope that this has got you thinking a little bit more about whether it's to monetize or to justify all the time you spend on it. But maybe you just want to buy some new shoes, because that's sure fun. I just want more bloggers to be able to have the great experience that I've had working with brands, and the great experience monetizing and turning crappy pictures into really good ones. So I'm going to talk to you some more about that in a tick, but I've just had a question come through about what sort of views brands look for as a starting point. So I'm going to assume that we're talking to an Australian audience right now and say that I think you really want to be having 3,000 uniques per month as a good starting point. I think that brands will work with less if you have a really niche. We've worked with people with just really niche blogs, and they've got a really small audience, but it's totally targeted, then that's great. But if you've got, I think the thing is, unless your blog's really new, when you're sort of talking at under 3,000 per month, it's just hard to know how much of that's sort of current and relevant. So if your stats are small, I think it's important to be looking at things like your bounce rate, the amount of time that's spent on your site, the number of pages people look at every time they visit, the number of comments and shares that you get. You want to be demonstrating that community and that kind of interest and engagement. It's such a buzzword, I'm a bit over it, but it's a helpful word, engagement, that your readers have with your blog. And then I would say that there's like a mid-level influencer sphere, which is probably sort of between 8,000-9,000 uniques a month and sort of 20,000. And if you're sitting in there, you're sitting in a really comfortable spot. in Australia, and then anything above that, yeah, is just more and more reach. But whatever size you're looking at, we don't have the kind of page views and stuff that brands in America have, bloggers in America have. We have lots of bloggers who get 1 million hits a month. We're just not in that. Our population is small, and it makes sense that Australian bloggers are mostly targeting Australian readers if they want to work with Australian brands. There's that. I hope that answers the question a little bit. I think my biggest encouragement is whatever your stats are, just putting your stats on a page for a brand is not enough to convey all of those other things that we know as bloggers matter. So, show that you're smart, show that you're savvy and that you get it, and help a PR manager or brand look smart in their teams by explaining it to them so that they can go back and say, well, this blogger can do X, Y, Z, and this is why they're good, and they have a whole case for you rather than, well, their stats look good, let's give it a go. Because, you want them coming back to you again and again. Their stats look good, let's give it a go. Oh, it didn't work so well, never mind, let's try someone else next time. It's just too easy for that path to go, for that to be the path you go down. Okay, let's talk to you. Okay. Okay, well, I'm just looking at Fiona's question. I think we've just kind of covered off the second part of your question. In terms of the first part of your question, getting approached by brands a lot and saying no because you don't like the fit, my advice to follow up is to call them. Pick up the phone and give them a call. Talk to them, introduce yourself, get on their radar. Maybe that campaign won't come off, but you'll have stood out to them, and you'll impress them a little bit with your being proactive in that regard. I think if you're really confident you have value to offer them, you just sort of work out how to quantify that for them, because they're the questions they're asking internally: is how do we make that make this valuable? The thing about Australian bloggers is we're really expensive. On a global scale, I actually think Australian bloggers are the most expensive bloggers in the world, and we have pretty small traffic because we're a small country. So when they're comparing working with bloggers, do we take out Facebook? Do we do Facebook ads instead, or do we do X whatever else we're going to do? Do we do banner advertising? You want to be able to really demonstrate what your value is to get it across the line. How much do brands take social media influence into account? That's a good question. Depends on the brand. It depends on their goals. It depends on where their audience is. So if you've got a brand that's targeting mums, then having a really big Facebook page is a massive benefit. Massive. Really big Twitter account, not such a big deal. Pinterest depends. Instagram more so. But mums are on Facebook, so if you've got a massive Facebook page, then that's really useful. As long as you show them how you're going to use it and you can demonstrate something that's relevant for them, I would say it's good. Any more questions while I'm here and answering them? Okay. Oh. Okay, that's still open, so hit me up if you've got more. But I do want to just tell you a little bit more about Brandlicious because I'm really excited about it. It's a 6-week program, 10 modules delivered twice a week with a week off in the middle, so you have a little rest and have time to implement it, make sure you're getting it all on track. You get an email notification letting you know when the latest module's dropped, and you will log in to a membership area to access that combination of video content and worksheets and just practical resources that you can implement. We have a private Facebook group to ask questions in, and opportunities for some direct feedback on the issues that you're going that arise for you as you go through it. And one of the things we've done that I'm really excited about is creating little mini mastermind groups for all the participants, so that you'll get put in a group with 2 or 3 other bloggers who have like complementary, non-competing kind of categories, so you can have some accountability and support, because I know that I've just done a lot of programs and you can easily just sign up and then never get around to it. And that's cool. Like, these things can be self-paced. You do them in your own time and you do them when it works for you. It doesn't have to be done straight away. But I think just having some accountability and some people who get it on the same page as you, working through the same stuff, it's so valuable and so awesome. And also then you can support each other and do shout outs for each other and help each other grow, help grow each other's profiles, which I think is just really lovely and really supportive. So I wanted to incorporate something that was really community-based and would help everyone feel like we're on the same page together. We're all like supporting each other, not competing with each other. Working with brands doesn't have to be a really competitive thing. I think collaboration is powerful, and the bloggers that we see doing really amazing stuff with brands are just highly collaborative and supportive people. So I wanted to incorporate that. And I've offered a little plus section, so if you want some more one-on-one stuff and some more group coaching where you get a little bit more personal feedback, then there's that option as well. Really, it's like nothing is left out. It's just a process that takes you through everything that I did and everything that I do and gives you heaps of tools so that you are just so well equipped to make brands completely love you and just want to keep working with you. That's the goal, is to make sure that you can just go out there and start implementing everything without having to figure it out yourself, and with kind of practical support from me, but also a group of bloggers who are going through the same thing. So I'd love you to check it out because I think you'll love it. I certainly love it, and keep typing on my keyboard, which I'm going to laugh at myself about. But the first module is, I guess, an overview. It's where we're going to create a really great strategy for you so that you're really, really clear on what you're trying to achieve when you work with brands and who's going to benefit for it, how it's going to benefit you, so that from the get-go, you're doing the sort of stuff that you love, that you have total freedom about. You're not getting caught up doing things you don't want to do, and you're not getting into kind of Groundhog Day of doing stuff over and over again that doesn't work for you. It's all about making sure that you're set up from the outset, or from the point that you start, for just success with working with brands. We're going to go a little bit more deeply into, I guess, why you want to work with brands and PR, because, as I said earlier, that really is going to drive and motivate the way that you approach the whole thing. So we want to get really, really clear about that, and then talk sort of specifically based on your decision about that, what motivates you, then the best avenues for you to take, and how to, there are lots of things that I did with my blog that I thought, really was so important for me, but I was able to work with brands without getting paid, but they just delivered so much other value for me in building a community that I was able to then use as a springboard for a heap of other opportunities. So we're going to talk about how to do that, as well as how to be monetizing in a way that works for you. And then we're going to make sure that in Module 3 your website is totally ready and that you have everything. And so this is going to be like a really resource-heavy based, as well as going through your site, getting it really ship and shape, or whatever that expression is. It's also going to be a bunch of just really practical tools. Okay, once you're ready, what are the email templates that you're going to use? What's your media kit template going to be? What are the reports you're going to create for the brands that you work with? How are you going to make sure that at every point of interaction with PR and brand manager, you just present your very best bloggy self? And then Module 4 is something I'm really excited about. It's about knowing your stats. So we're going to talk about how to work out what you're influential on, how to work out how to work out the things that people care about, the things that people engage with in your site, and how to then translate that into pictures and responses to the emails that you get. So it's all about how to gather that information, how to understand your Google Analytics, how to set up things so that you're really tracking yourself and you're really, really clear on all of that stat stuff I talked about earlier. You know where your traffic's coming from, what it's going to, what's working, what's not working. So you just have a really clear picture of your own influence, and also then you can work out where you need to go, because once you've worked out what you're already influential on, it gives you just so much, knowledge is power, and you just have so much power then to work out where you're going to go next, and we're going to help you kind of roadmap that out. Module 5 is looking at design tweaks. So we're going, I guess, to a more specific aspect of that presentation to PR and brand managers to make sure that the whole aesthetic of your presentation communicates what you're trying to communicate and what you stand for as a blog and as a brand and as a person, and make sure all those things connect. And we're just going to talk through simple design tweaks that will make the world of difference to the way brands are you. Because I have had brands say to me, oh, I don't really like the look of that blog, and I'm sitting there saying that blog is perfect for you. They just don't like the look of it. And so we can get them past that because that's our job. But if, you know, the thing is that I will only ever have so many clients. You know, I'll only ever have so many clients that I can help create great campaigns for bloggers. But my passion is better opportunities for more bloggers. That's why I started what I do. That's why we create so much free content through Brandmates Blog, through our weekly newsletters, and we've created ebooks this year and free courses. It's because I want better opportunities for more bloggers. And you are always going to get more pitches coming to you through your inbox than you're going to get from one agency. So I just want to empower you and give you all the information that I've learned over the years so that you can then do something really great with those pitches and you know what to do. You're not reliant on someone else sitting there saying to that brand, it doesn't matter that their blog doesn't look the way you like it to look, because they are a perfect match for you and this is how. You know, you can do that yourself. You can make that, you can have those conversations, you can negotiate that whole conversation and that whole journey. Because you are equipped to do it, and I guess that's what I'm just so passionate about, and that's why Brandlicious has come to being, because I just want to take you on that journey with me. Sorry, I get a bit excited. And I guess that actually leads quite well into module 6 of the program, which is to help you do that, get you in front of the right people, empower you so that you're not sending an email or hesitant. You know, there's so much opportunity out there that we stop because we never start because we're so scared of what will happen. And I totally understand. That. But I just want to. So you know, I can encourage you to do it, and I totally encourage you to do that. But I also want to actually just help you by saying, here are some email templates, and here are some ways to approach it. Here are some things to address in a first inbox, so that you'll really, you know, stand out, and they'll know that you get it, and they'll know that you care about delivering value for them, not just about, you know, getting something for yourself. And that's part of module 7 as well, which is learning how to ask the right questions of a brand or a PR rep. And I really love this because I put this in the thing. Remember my first boss saying to me, you know, when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. And I just I know that's a bit crass, but I love it, and it's true. And I've come across this so much with brands and bloggers where there's just a miscommunication because people don't ask the right questions. So we're going to talk about how to make sure that doesn't happen, so that at first instance you even know what those questions are, but then a whole bunch of actual templates again for you to use when you're working with the brand to make sure you cover off all of those things, because not only will that just make you happier because you'll not get caught in a sticky situation that you're having to unravel, but again, it will just really impress the brands that you work with, that you have such a professional approach and that you are able to go to them in such a clearly thought out and comprehensive way, so that everybody's on the same table, and so the outcome for everybody is really great. And so that's what module 7 is about, making sure that there are no unhappy moments that come about through any sort of miscommunication. Module 8 is a little bit we touched on tonight. Learn to say no to make your yes more powerful. So that will be all about how to say no well so that you don't put a brand off, and so that you can continue to work with them down the future if things change, but also to just stay on track with what your personal goals are and what your blog goals are, so that you don't compromise what you're trying to achieve by saying yes to something that's actually not right for you. And that helps you in module 9 make your yes count and stand out. And then in module 10, because the thing is, this is all really full on and it's so time consuming working with brands, that we want to make sure you keep it all in balance. So we're going to kind of finish off with a whole bunch of tips and tricks and hacks to help you manage your life while growing your blog, so that, you know, I'm a real believer that better processes equal better opportunities, which equals better outcomes. So we're going to wrap up in a way that helps you really make sure you can implement all of what we've talked about and what you've learned, and doesn't lead to complete state of overwhelm. So that's what Brandlicious is, and you can find out more about it at bebrandlicious.com, which I would love you to do. Goes through all of those things in more detail. I've had a lot of people recently asking me to do one-on-one consulting with me, or if I can help them one-on-one, and really I'm such a saying no, because I think that I'm totally happy to do that, but this is something that's much better value for money to cover this kind of information in sessions with you. I mean, like a 1 hour session, what are we going to get done in an hour session? You know, my hourly rate. We're not going to get anywhere near it. But this course is going to get you through everything that you need to know, and it's going to be there forever. Well, for as long as the program lives, you're going to be able to log into your website. You're going to be able to get it, access it all whenever you're ready. You know, I talked about going to BlogWorld a couple of years ago. It was an amazing experience, but it took me probably 18 months to implement all of the key learnings. So it takes a long time sometimes to implement it, but going to that conference and getting all that information was amazing for me, and I've just been able to steadily go back to it and go through it at my own pace and implement so much of what I've learned there. And, you know, I think that's what you want to do when you start any sort of program is I'm going to do it, I'm going to complete it, but it's okay if it takes me a while to do every little detail. You know, I'm not someone who's light on when it comes to content. I like to give people a lot of meaty stuff, so that because I believe information, you know, knowledge is power. I believe that if you have the information, then you have more opportunities to do stuff with it, and so that's why I'm a bit long-winded all the time, because I just want to communicate, you know, enough to help you. Not enough to make you go, yeah, well, I kind of knew that, thanks for nothing. So anyway, Brandlicious is there. There's an early bird special at the moment. Most blogging courses are sort of between $250 and $400 to do them. Brandlicious is $167 early bird price till September the 5th, and then it goes up to $197. So, you know, it's a really affordable price for the amount of content that's in there. And my bonus for those of you who've hung around tonight, and I can see that's a lot of you, is that the first 3 people who register will get a professionally designed media kit done by the person who does all of my web design, all of my Brandlicious web designs. She did my logo. She's done several logos for me, actually, for a couple of other things. She's absolutely fantastic, and she will design you a professional media kit, and we'll use my personal template for design work, so that you'll have all of the right information to give her to get it put together, and I'm going to help you with the process, so that I'm going to help you make sure that you're putting the right stuff in your media kit and that it's all being done the way that it should be done. So that's my bonus for those of you who are here tonight. Go to BeBrandlicious, BeBrandlicious.com, your step-by-step guide to making brands fall in love with your blog. Click the whichever option you like, the basic option or the one with a bit of extra coaching, and the first 3 people to do it will get the media kit option, which I'm super excited about. Before we wrap up, I think I've got one more question I'm going to answer for you, which is a specific return that brands are looking for. Look, that's a great question, and actually just that's the question you need to ask brands. What are your objectives for this campaign? Because it'll be different. Sometimes they want to drive likes to a Facebook page, sometimes they want to drive traffic to their website, sometimes they want to just create awareness, and so they want you to do that on their blog. And that is just, having that question from the outset is going to give you the ability to then come back to them with a suggestion that matches their objectives. If you just go back to them with, I'll do a sponsored post and it costs you this much, well, you have no idea whether what you're offering them is in any way going to hit their objectives or deliver ROI for them. So the answer is the question that you asked. It's a good question. It's 9:20, so we've been here for an hour now. I'm just going to give it 2 more minutes if anybody has another question to pop in there. Otherwise, I would love you to go and check out. I'm going to put the link in there in a minute when my computer stops freaking out on me. And I'm going to hang out a couple more minutes, as I said I would. And really don't know what's happened to my thing there. If you're still there and you've got a question, there I am. I'm participating. Very ugly face on that there. That's okay. Oh, some people's comments have been removed as spam. No. Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. I think I've answered all the questions. Nobody else seems to be asking any. I'm going to log off. I'm going to let you go and check out Be Brandlicious. I'm going to say thank you for being here. And if you want to contact me with any questions, you can send me an email at louisa@brandmeetsblog.com. Thanks so much. Bye.